All right, so here's Edpuzzle 4.3 where we're going to work with guidelines 1 and 2. So guidelines 1 and 2, we talked about parentheses and then combining like terms. So we will be seeing those in this video. So first we're going to start with example number 1, and this is number 1 on your sheet. We have 2k minus k equals 8. First thing I'm going to draw is my equal bar. All right, so let's look at this. There's no parentheses in this problem. Combining like terms. If you see any, you're going to combine like terms on the same side of the equal sign. I have like terms on this side of the equal sign, so let's take a look at this. So I have 2k minus k. These are like terms. Now this k doesn't have a number in front of it, but I have to remember for invisible math, this technically has a 1 in front of it. So 2k minus 1k gives us a 1k. All right, so I combine those like terms. I'm going to do something like this so I know that's what I did. Equals 8. Now, if you want, you can do this. If not, you can leave it as it is. But if you have a 1 in front, you could, if you'd like, divide that 1 on both sides because it is a coefficient. However, if you divide by 1, nothing changes, right? These would cancel. I get k equals 8 divided by 1 is 8. Nothing changed. So whenever you have a 1 in front of your variable and you equal that final number, you're technically done. But if you still want to go through the motions of dividing by 1 to make yourself feel better, that's okay. You still get that answer, all right? Now, I'm going to check my work real quick. All right, so my original problem was 2k minus k equals 8. So I have 2. I'm replacing that k with an 8. Remember, that's what we said k equals. Minus 8 again equals 8. I'm going to type this into my calculator exactly. So, typing this exactly. 2 parentheses 8, close that parentheses, minus 8. Hey, look at that. I get an 8. So 8 equals 8. This is a good answer. We did our problem correctly. Let's check out another one. So example 2, this is number 9 on your sheet. We have 3 parentheses, x minus 7 minus 2 parentheses equals 141. First thing, equal bar. Now I'm going to look at my handy dandy guideline. So, oh, hey, look, I have parentheses. This is fancy multiplication. So what I'm going to do is distribute, aka multiply the number in front of the parentheses. So let's do that. The number in front of my parentheses is this 3. So I have to do 3 times 7x. You're really just multiplying the numbers. So that gives you 21x. But I can't forget about that second number in there. 3 times this negative 2 gives me negative 6. All right, that's all that's inside of the parentheses. So everything else, that equal sign and in the 141, get dropped down. Now I have to check, do I have like terms? Well, 21x minus 6, those are not like terms, and then this 41's by itself. So there are no like terms. The variable is only on one side, so now it's time to isolate. So first we're going to move our constant, then our coefficient. I'm not label these anymore. I am not going to label these anymore. You just got to know. We'll talk about them, but we're not going to label them. My constant in this case is this minus 6. So I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to add 6 on both sides because what you do on one side, you do on the other. The 6's with the variable, they go away. This 21x gets brought down. So does this equal sign? 141 plus 6 is 147. This 21 is my coefficient. So I am going to divide that coefficient because it's got secret multiplication currently happening. And remember, you show division with fraction bars. So I'm going to divide that 21 on both sides because what you do on one side, you got to do on the other. The 21s cancel out. We're left with just that x, so we drop the x. 147 divided by 21. I know what that is off the top of my head, but just in case, let me double check with my handy dandy calculator. That gives me a 7. So right now we're saying x equals 7. What I'm going to do is I'm going to check my work. So I'm going to reuse this original equation, and instead of an x, I'm going to put in a 7. Now, I can't put it in the 7 like this, right? Because remember, technically 7x means you're multiplying, so I got to put parentheses around it. Now, you can do this the old school method and use your please excuse my dear Aunt Sally's, or you can use your calculator. Let's kick it old school this time. All right, so parentheses. I got to do stuff in my parentheses first. Well, I have inside of this parentheses, I got 7 times 7. Multiplying goes before subtracting. So 7 times 7 is 49. So I got 3 times 49 minus 2. Well, now I got 49 minus 2. That gives me 47. So now I got 3 times 47. Well, now I got to do 3 times 47. I don't know that off the top of my head. It's 141. So this ends up being 141. This guy drops down now. And look at that, it works out. So either you type it into your calculator, and I'll show that real quick. So type it in my calculator, make sure all the parentheses look the same, or else it's gonna make some boo-boos. And look, I still get the same answer. I just wanted to be cool this time. So our last example is example 3. This is number 14 on your sheet. First thing, balance bar. Now, we got to go through this because it looks like there's a lot of stuff happening here, but this is why we wrote down our guideline. So, do we have parentheses? Oh my gosh, yes we do. We got to distribute the number in front of the parentheses. So, the number in front of my parentheses is not 2. The number in front of my parentheses is -2. So, I have to do -2 times 4m. I don't remember, let's just check. Here, negative symbol. -2 times 4, -8, okay? Be careful with the signs, it's the biggest mistakes. So I got a -8m, but I can't forget about that other number in the parentheses. I gotta multiply that guy too. However, it's a -2 times a -8. When I multiply two negatives, that becomes positive, and I know 2 times 8 is 16. Nothing else was in the parentheses, so everything that isn't in right here or inside of the parentheses drops. So that -2m drops down, that was in front, the equal sign, and that 96. Okay, now I gotta check. So, got rid of our parentheses, we're good. Now we have to check, do we have like terms on the same side of the equal sign? So let's check it out. On this side of the equal sign, because there's 3 different things happening here, do we have any that are like terms? Yes, we do. We have -2m minus 8m. Now, there is no multiplication sign here, and combining means we add these things together. So I got to figure out what a -2 and a -8m make. So there's 2 different ways you can do this. You can write it how you see it, -2 minus 8, and that gives you -10. Or if you want to add these 2 things together, you can do that and you'll get the same thing. If I do -2 plus, making sure I use that negative sign, -8 also gives me -10. These mean the same thing, okay? Whether you subtract that 8 or add a -8, you end up the same. So we get -10m. Nothing else has like terms, so everything else that was not alike drops down. That 16 drops down with its plus sign, don't forget its sign, and that 96, as well as that equal sign, which stays on the equal bar. All right, hey, look at this. We're getting close here. The variable's only on one side. This is good. Now we can isolate, which we have been practicing. So we're gonna move the constant, and then we're gonna move the coefficient. So our constant in this case is 16. Constants you can only add or subtract. Since I have a plus 16, I'm a minus 16. If I do it on one side, I do it on the other. There it is. These 16s go away. Everything else that wasn't messed drops. So we got -10m drops. The equal sign drops. However, I gotta do 96 minus 16, and that gives me 80. I know that off the top of my head. This -10 is our coefficient, and it's got some secret multiplication happening with that coefficient. So I need to divide, and I don't divide just 10, I divide -10. You gotta get rid of the whole thing and divide that -10 on the other side. The 10s go away. We're left with just that m, so we can drop our m. 80 divided by -10. Ooh, I want to be careful because I see a negative in there and I don't want to make any silly sign mistakes. 80 divided by -10 gives me a -8. All right, so I'm saying my m is a -8. So I'm gonna check my work. I have two m's to replace. Both of them are gonna be with that -8. All right, so I replaced both of those m's with a -8, and I put parentheses around them because they had coefficients. So you can type this into your calculator exactly. Be careful with them parentheses. Or you can do your please excuse my dear Aunt Sally's. Look at that. All right, let's check. I got the -2. I got a -8 inside of a parentheses. I got a minus sign. See how it's just a smidgen bigger? That's how I know it's a minus sign. So -2, parentheses, 4, parentheses, -8, parentheses, minus sign. See how it's a little bit bigger? 8, close the parentheses. 96. This works out. 96 equals 96. I didn't make any boo-boos. That means this is a good answer. You could do it the old school way as well. Both work out. Remember, if you struggle with the negatives and minus signs, just ask during class. All right, that's the end of this video. So go ahead, get started on the rest of your sheet.